Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. I'm Stephen Brown, and joining me for this Leeds United Thursday show, as ever, it is Jason Booker. Jason, how are we doing, mate?
Very well, my friend. Very well.
Yes, if you're watching along on X, please do like the video, get your comments in, do follow the page as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, get your comments in. Let us know how you're feeling about things going on at Ellen Road at the moment. Jason, obviously, big game coming up at the weekend. As always, lots happening with Leeds. You weren't on our Monday show, so it'll be interesting to get some of your thoughts on expansion of stadiums and all this kind of news. But we're going to kick off with, obviously, Farke's press conference today and some slight alarming news, a few injury worries that have cropped up. Manor Solomon is out, but could possibly face Norwich. James is still out. Stroit's got an issue as well. He's due to train tomorrow, so they're going to keep an eye out on that. Firpo and Bamford did miss some training, but Farke expects them to be okay. Verba's still out, and a decision apparently needs to be taken over whether he's going to need surgery. So a few bits and pieces. I mean, we started the season, didn't we, with a clean slate, no injuries, and we thought, hang on, this we could be onto something here. But obviously, the injuries have picked up. I mean, the Solomon one, I mean, we knew obviously that he was injury prone. You know, his record would say he's injury prone. Obviously, we can't read too much into it because it's early days in the season. But I guess in the back of your mind, thinking, I hope we don't kind of get this kind of recurring situation, even though I thought Ramazani stepped in last week and was really good. But obviously one to keep an eye on, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, we said right from the word go signing Solomon that there was no way that he ends up in the Championship without an injury record. And you take a risk attached to that situation, don't you? So, and the facts are is we've recruited fairly heavily in them areas and we have enough to deal with the fact that he's out. I hope that there was some sort of an agreement behind the scenes that like, if there's a playing wage for him and a non-playing wage, not that it really matters from a fan perspective, but I'd like to believe that the club have probably covered the bases with that, in that they don't want to be paying 50 grand for a week for a player that's not available on a Saturday. And, you know, given all that and given the fact that we then went and signed, you know, Ramazani as well, and we still got options in them areas, I would probably say that it was worth the gamble, and I still think it's worth the gamble. There's a long way to go in this season. There's still 40 games to go. So, and Solomon is a difference maker. So, but hopefully it's not too long. Hopefully it's not too long. But I'm not like, it's heartbreaking. I don't feel like that about it. Like I always kind of expected there probably would be periods in the season where it was missing. But we have the resources to deal with it, mate. It's no excuse for me, if I'm honest.
No. Nige, good evening, mate. 7 games in, now an injury crisis. Apparently, Solomon was always a risk. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, is it? We always knew that injuries are going to happen. You're never going to keep a fully fit squad. The centre of defence, Jason, that's possibly an area of concern if Stroik doesn't make that game. Obviously, Verba has had a difficult start to life back at Leeds. We had a situation, I think it was with Stroik last season, wasn't it, where it was this, are we going to put him into surgery, are we not? I don't know about you, but it always kind of seems that, well, you end up having to do it anyway, really. Yeah. So is it just worth just getting on with it and basically, right, Verba, you're out for 2 months or whatever, 10 weeks or whatever, and we'll get you back up to shape then. But it's going to be interesting what they decide to do with defence. Obviously, last season we saw Ampadu come into the back, but Farke has made overtones in the press conference today about De Gea and how impressed he's been with him as well. How do you imagine Farke will solve that defensive conundrum?
I think it'll be Ampadu. Obviously, Verba would have been the natural choice, left-footed on the left side. Should he been fit? And I'd have really liked to have seen him in a full-strength lead side. I've made my opinions on it pretty clear. In that, I've had a lot of back and forward today with a particular person on social media, and I don't know whether he ever watches.
Oh, I've not seen this. I need to catch up with this.
It's funny because we probably have fairly similar opinions on a lot of different stuff, but at the end of the day, you're going to find something that sometimes divides you. And I just don't get the massive loving on Pascal. Like, I like him. I think he's a good centre back, but I have my reservations with him. I don't like a lot of his mid to long range pass accuracy. I think he's very wasteful with some of his passes, as is Rodon, but we don't market Rodon as this ball playing centre back that we do with Pascal. And I think Pascal's concentration levels at times gets us in a lot of trouble. it's just my opinion. You know, it's how I feel about it. So I was looking forward to an opportunity coming up where Max could come in and play. I'm of the opinion everything that I saw of Verba prior to him signing for Leeds, and then his early stages at Leeds, and the fact that he made the Austrian squad, and the fact that, you know, he did very well in the Bundesliga last season, tells me that he's a pretty good centre-back. You know what I mean? So all of that combined. Now, I think we probably will never see the best of Verba in a Leeds shirt. I don't think he's probably going to ever gel back in the way that we would like him to. He probably don't fully want to be here, and that can then sometimes show. So is he prepared to put himself on the line? That kind of questioning came up as well this week. There's a case to say that that's maybe you know, fair. But ultimately, I do think he's probably a better centre-back. So it's a shame that he's not got the opportunity, or is prepared to take the opportunity one way or another to then, you know, take that spot now that it's come up. So I do think it'll be Ampadu. I can't imagine that DeBayo come in for this game. I can't. Not with Ampadu available, Gruev able to do that role, Tanaka, Rothwell, all as experienced, you know, first team options. I just can't imagine that DeBayo will be starting. But I could be wrong. And if he does decide to go with him, then he's obviously got a lot of faith in him, because he didn't do it with Cresswell last year, did he?
No, no.
Yeah, be an interesting one.
No, absolutely. Gavin, welcome on, mate. Don't want any Farke excuses. He's got a decent squad. We may finally see Tanaka by default. Yeah, well, this is it. The thing, because you immediately think if Ampadu goes into the centre-back position, it's going to be Tanaka, surely, who comes in. Although he seemed keen on Rothwell as well, doesn't he, Farke? He's not, you know, I think he's been first sub a couple of times, hasn't he? So we never know. But will you be excited to see Tanaka and see what he's got over the course of 90 minutes?
100%. He's the boy, man. He's the most exciting signing for me out of the whole group, because we've kind of needed that full range motion centre midfielder for forever. What it feels like forever. Literally, we were talking about this in the Premier League when we were still relying on Adam Forshaw and the whole Adam Forshaw tweet, weren't we? You know, so yeah, we're desperate to kind of see that role being filled properly, because Kamara was great at a lot of things, but he wasn't the full rounded midfielder that we really needed last season. Hence, he's been moved on and we've replaced him. So I can't wait to see him. And I just think he gives us, like, I love Ampadu, but I think Ampadu and Gruev are so similar that you see a very similar kind of output from both of them. And whereas Tanaka and Rothwell, for that part, are both very different. You're going to get an injection in that area of the pitch that we just don't have with them two. But you probably do lose an element of control with Rothwell. Certainly out of possession, I think you're gonna see that. Tanaka, I would be confident, can do both aspects. I can only imagine that once Tanaka gets in, we probably won't see a midfield without him.
Yeah, absolutely. It does feel like if he gets the opportunity, it's going to be a huge one for him to nail down that first team place. I mean, moving on to kind of Farke as a whole, obviously, you know, we spoke last week on the match review. I think, you know, you saw a lot of negativity around a win, which is quite unusual. We talked about it on Monday evening, and you know, we were talking about kind of all our clubs, actually, especially the Football League clubs, and there's massive expectations around ourselves, Huddersfield Town, Bradford City, and it's funny to see how different clubs handle that expectation. And Farke seems to be a bit of a victim of that kind of circumstance, because I don't know what else you can do if your team wins. I mean, that for me was like the line in the sand, you know. And I said this on Monday, I've been critical of Farke. I've said to you privately in WhatsApp, I've had doubts and all kinds of things. But, you know, if you're winning games, what else are you supposed to do? I don't understand kind of the negativity around it. And I feel like, okay, if you bullet in, which is what some fans, I think, are trying to kind of almost create a narrative around, that it's heading that way. Who comes in? How do they, you know, take on the squad? How do they get it going? You know, someone could come in, it could be amazing, and we could, you know, romp to promotion. But really, I mean, this is the man that we bet on, isn't it? The 49ers have bet on this guy, and it needs to work. And if you win games, you've just got to get behind that. I mean, Gavin, I don't want to pick you out, mate, but you said on the Monday night show, you left a comment about, you know, you're sick of missing chances. But to me, we're creating those chances.
What does Farke do about that?
Yeah,
like, literally, you can't, unless you,
it's the players' fault.
Sign Haaland. Like, You can't do anything to guarantee that. We had this conversation under Bielsa. The Bielsa's teams used to miss too many chances as well. And that were never Bielsa's fault either. You know what I mean? But Bamford got the most of the lightning rod then, and some of that was fair. But also there was others. We were quick to just hit Bamford with that stick. But just coming back to your point specifically, like I've banged on about this for what feels probably like best part of a year now, but certainly the last six months ish. And it seems to have gained a lot of pace. People talking about being a Bielsa widow. I know a lot of content creators have talked about it. I've been saying this for months.
You have to be fair. Yeah.
This fan base has been so spoiled by what we experienced under Bielsa, especially at championship level, that we just see everything else as being so far away from it. And that's the ultimate expectation. That you can't, that's not normal. What we had under Bielsa and that style of football was not normal. You were lucky to experience it and enjoy it. Now what we've got is what actually is still top level championship performances. We're absolutely dominating teams for 90 minutes. Like every single game that we've had this season, I'd say with the exception of the West Brom game, we've totally controlled every minute pretty much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bar a slip from Manor Solomon. I'd actually argue that the Portsmouth game was the one game without as much control as what we would like. Even the West Brom game, we dictated a lot of what was happening by being negative. And I can accept that. It was a negative performance, defence first. But the rest of them, we've always looked like scoring. We've always looked like scoring. It's not the creating the chance that's the problem. Go and look at the numbers. They tell you that. It's the putting the ball in the net, the last bit. And I've said this a few times over the last few weeks. We're a Brendan Aronson finish at the end of the Portsmouth game from it being a pretty good start to the season. That's the truth, because if we'd have beaten Portsmouth, lost to Burnley and drawn to West Brom, no, I don't think we'd have had anywhere near the amount of noise and negativity that we've had. But that's football, isn't it? But to me, it feels like he's one loss away at any time from just a pile-on. And it's so unfair.
Yeah.
Should we, would it be nice to beat Cardiff 4-5? Sure. But should we have beaten Cardiff 4-5? Yeah, we should have done. Brendan Aronson misses a chance from 2 yards out. Ramazani misses an easier chance on the one that he scored. We miss a penalty. It's 5 there.
Yeah. Well, I said, I don't know if you agree with this, Jason, but what I think with Leeds, what I've seen is like, we're not a team that creates loads of half chances, but we create really great opportunities, maybe 4 or 5 a game. So we're not having pot shots from here and there and all this kind of thing. We're not good on set pieces, obviously, so we don't get much that way. But we create, the Aronson one, like you're absolutely spot on. That was, when you see it again, like how Ramazani, the penalty, we do create these golden opportunities for it, and we're just not putting the ball in the back of the net like we should.
And we create them in a way in which we're creating the massive chances you just explained there, which you're spot on with, by the way. But we're also doing it while having complete and utter domination control over the whole game. We're not even conceding chances. I remember from January to April when we were in that run last year, we said exactly the same thing. We're not only conceding goals. We're at 10 without conceding, or 9 without conceding. I think it was something like that.
Yeah,
we weren't only not conceding goals, but we weren't even conceding chances. Meslier had nothing to do, and it's looking very similar again. Meslier had one save to make on the weekend after their kick-off for the second goal, I think it was, and it was just Pascal switching off completely, and they had a chance, and he made a decent save, to be fair to him. But he's having nothing to do, so I would rather us play like that. It's a far more sustainable, long-term kind of way of playing than actually under Bielsa was. Bielsa's style of football, as much as I absolutely loved it, was it always that sustainable? It proved to not be under the same squad, and you can get into the whole debate of we needed to recruit players that can come in and do it again and all the rest of it. We ain't got time for that now. But it weren't sustainable under the same set of players. Whereas this style, you would argue, is probably more sustainable. We have so much more quality than every other team in the division. Why do we want to give them any sort of chance? And that is the way that the system works. It suffocates most of these lower quality teams. Eventually, every now and again, over a 46-game season, you can have a situation like the Burnley game. But that's football.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris doesn't agree, though. He thinks he'll be gone by Christmas. I mean, the thing is, I mean, football's mad in it. Football is absolutely mental evening, Kevin. Football is, you just don't know, do you? 6 bad results and anything could happen. And look, I'm not saying I'm kind of 100% convinced or anything, but I just think, well, you're winning games, not conceding. It's I don't know. I find it hard to kind of be anti Farke and get him out, kind of thing.
I'd say the 49ers are fully in on him, mate. It'd have to take an absolute monster fall off. I think there's a lot of fans that feel like Chris, where they'll be, they've got this opinion that it'll be gone by Christmas or it'll be gone by this date or whatever. I think they're miles off it, because regardless of what you think about him or not, and I'm a bit like you, I'm not like a massive Farke loving, but at this level, I think he's the best option that we could hope to get. We're not going to go out and get better by sacking him now. So I'm very much of the opinion that this team and the way that he plays, while sometimes a little bit, I'm not going to say boring, because I don't find it boring, negative. I think negative is the right word to use for it. It's going to be more than enough to beat 95% of the teams that we're coming across, because as team is just so much better. People are quick to say it was only Cardiff, it was only Sheffield Wednesday, it was only Hull, or whatever. And they keep on kind of spurring that narrative every game after we win. Well, most of the teams are only X. Yeah, you don't play Burnley every week. You play Preston, Stoke, Millwall, Cardiff, Swansea. They're all exactly the same, mate. There's so little difference, and sure, you're going to face a team that are in a bit of form. Like when we play Sunderland in a couple of weeks, if they've still only lost 1 game all season, then you're facing a team like that are riding a crest of a wave, and it becomes a little bit more difficult because they've got belief, they've got form, etc. Right? That's fine. But then you hope that you turn up, you play well, you make the quality difference, or you leave the Stadium of Light with a point, like we did against West Brom, who are everybody's favourite team all of a sudden. You know what I mean? So, but then we're getting nobody's giving Farke or the team any credit for going to West Brom, who have won every other game, and getting a point on the back of us getting thumped by Middlesbrough in the cup. So, because that matters, doesn't it? Form at the time for us wasn't particularly great. So it weren't a bad point in hindsight now. So I just think we have to see the bigger picture of all of this, and just remember that most weeks we are just going to totally boss teams and win the game. Yeah, absolutely. Diggler here, if any other manager tries to play like Bielsa, it ain't going to work. That football was a true one-off. Kevin, don't mind Farke at this level, but not in the Premier League. Different conversation. There's even an argument, if he gets us up and you see a better option as a manager, you get rid of Farke. Even though that would be incredibly harsh, but you have to make these kind of cutthroat decisions, don't you? But that, like you say, is a different argument, really. You're not going to see me sit here and argue with anybody that wants to even say that. I think he's the best man for the job at this level. But if you came to me and said, Jay, I agree with you, but the second we got promoted, we sacked him, I'd say, you know what, I can understand that. I can understand that. And I'd be still prepared to give him a chance, by the way. I would, because I don't think he had the resources at Norwich. I think there was, reasons. I think he could probably keep us up. But if and I'm not saying Iriola, but an equivalent became available and they decided to want to go in a different direction, I could get behind that completely. Yeah, absolutely. One thing I wanted to chat about, and we kind of covered this a little bit on the Cardiff match review, and a friend of the show, Nancy Frost in The Athletics, done an article earlier in the week about this, and it's Joel Piroe, and the Leeds striker who gets the job done. Is it time to build around him now? It's an interesting one because he's kind of the forgotten man, isn't he, Jason? I mean, he came in for a big fee last year, big reputation, great goal-scoring record at this level, actually bagged quite a lot of goals last season, considering how difficult it was at times. But as he's not first team starter, he's lost his place completely now to Joseph, or even if you look at his number 10 position, Aronson, Nonto, whoever is ahead of him. But when you saw him come off the bench last week and just put the ball in the back of the net the way he does, and doing it the week before as well, or a couple of games before that, it's difficult because he doesn't fit the system, and he's not going to give you what you need up top. But at the same time, it's kind of irresistible, the fact that this guy can put the ball in the net, and it's frustrating because you're going,
is there not a way we can get this man in the right positions on the pitch? Because I think he'll score the goals that we desperately need, because we just don't have finishers in this team.
I said it to you after in the review, didn't I? Like, ultimately, that is on Farke to get Piroe in the system, to be in the positions where he's getting 2 or 3 of them opportunities that he had the other day, and he'll score you probably 2 every game.
Yeah.
And we have the level of dominance in which that, you know, we should be able to do that. And I've seen it kind of bandied about in the from content creators this week that we've changed the system in such a way in which they think Piroe could fit back in the 9. I'm not so sure. I don't think he links play up well enough between midfield and attack. I just don't think he's got that about him. Whereas I think Joseph at least does have that little bit more strength. I'm not completely sold on everything that Joseph's done so far, but I understand the bigger picture with him. And I can understand that he might be snatching at a few chances that in 6 months' time, if he's had a run in the team, he'll start scoring them. So I'm not away from keeping Joseph in there, even though I think right now he's not giving us everything that we need. I would argue that right now a fully fit Park would still be better. Pause. Like I get that it takes some flack, but he isn't fully fit, so it's irrelevant. You know what I mean? Yeah. So. But yeah, it is a conundrum, mate, because there is I seem to say this constantly, but there's nobody that you would want on the end of a chance more in the whole division, I would argue, than Joel Piroe. If he's in and around anything in the box, I mean, they had no right to really score that chance the other day.
No, I was just going to say, the angle is terrible.
But he's capable of doing that because he's just a killer. He's an absolute killer. He sticks it right in the top corner. It was basically his first touch of the ball. He needs no warm-up. He just takes the ball and puts it in the goal. That is what he's about.
What do you think it is that makes a great finisher? Because I always remember Robbie Fowler, who is kind of the best finisher probably I've seen, just in terms of naturally being able to stroke the ball in. I mean, we saw it at Leeds, his brief time there, and you look at some of his goals and his finishes were outstanding. And is it being cool of mind? Is it technique? I mean, it seems that kind of that intangible element, doesn't it? That a player's either got it or he just doesn't have it.
I don't think you can train it.
No, I think
players can grow it through experience and adapt and change. But I think ultimately, like when the ball is not, when the touch that you're talking about isn't the last one before it goes into the net, technique on kicking a ball or passing a ball or striking a ball can be so clean and fluid. I know this. I used to play as a striker and I weren't a great finisher. I was the kind of link up target kind of player because I didn't have the composure in front of goal. I was exactly that. But when I'm striking the ball not in front of goal, you saw this in the charity game. When I'm striking,
weird, isn't it? It's mad, isn't it?
When you're striking the ball and it's not in front of the goal, technically, I'm a good striker of the ball. Put me in front of goal, and I won't have the same level of composure. I won't strike the ball in the same way because it's just.
It's like Rutter, though, isn't it? I mean, I saw Rutter for Brighton, the highlight and it's like that's the Rutter we remember, where it's a fantastic skill, and of course he can hit a ball, he can do these wonderful assists and passes 40 yards that he can land on a sixpence, get him in front of goal, though, and it's just like it just goes, doesn't it? That composure.
Look at Calvin as an example. Calvin's probably a good example of this because you give him the space in and around the midfield, deep lying playmaker role, and he'll be striking, pinging balls left and right, and they'll be on a sixpence. But you put him in front of goal and he won't have that same level of striking ability because the situation is different, the pressure's different. I think about the goal that he scored, the centenary goal against Birmingham. Scuffed it and went under keeper. Where's the beautiful striker of the ball? It's different, isn't it? So it is a complete and utter conundrum that will test football managers and teams forever as long as we're playing this beautiful game that we love. And I do think some strikers can grow it, but I think for most, it's either there or it's not. And Piroe just has it. It's just a killer in front of goal. Well, Bamford and Piroe are a great example of this because Bamford is clearly a super talented footballer, but in front of goal, he doesn't have the same level of composure. And I mean, the whole COVID lockdown kind of argument came up. Would Bamford have scored them goals that he scored in that first season of the Premier League with full stadiums? I would argue not. I would argue not to this day. I would, think about that finish that he struck away at Leicester. that came off on the side at Barn, Villa,
the hat-trick.
Villa, yeah, like.
But I mean, Dennis Bergkamp, we were thinking, he channeling Dennis Bergkamp, for God's sake. I think Digler makes a great point here as well. Absolute killer finish by Piroe, beautiful. I'd still stick with Joseph, though. Piroe has a good attitude and he's okay on the bench for now. That's one thing that's impressed me about Piroe, though. When he comes on, he looks hungry. He looks like he's up for the fight. You don't get the impression that this is a guy sulking when actually... Not that you'd ever understand a player sulking or throwing a strop, but I mean, he was signed as the man. He was the major summer signing last year, and he's kind of been slowly kind of edged out. And then when he comes on the pitch, he's scoring the goals. But I think his attitude's been first class. Like when he comes on, he looks like he really wants it and clearly believes that he can possibly get back there and nail that position down.
He seems like a very mellow, well-respected kind of guy, doesn't he? Like super chill and a proper Dutchman. But I think for Piroe, he sees Leeds as the best opportunity he has of getting to the Premier League. That's what I think. Like right now, you would have to, and I think this existed a year ago as well. You'd have to have taken a real gamble on Piroe being the main man up front for a Premier League team.
Yeah,
that's why they went for Cameron Archer, and the teams down at the bottom went for all them different strikers. They didn't go for Piroe, and we managed to get him. So it's a funny one. It is a real funny one. But you cannot knock him at all. The lad, every time he comes on, I think he gives it his all. Like I said, I don't ever blame him for his shortfallings because I don't think it's his fault. I don't think we play to his system. I don't think Farke plays to his style at all. Nigel mentioned exactly the same thing there. But I think the comment further up, the one directly above it. But I think I still ultimately think that we didn't want him. I think we wanted Cameron Archer. We needed a statement signing, and we went out and made it. But hopefully we can keep on adapting him in it. I mean, I would love us to see a system in which gets the best out of Piroe. He's going to score the most goals.
Yeah. So, I would love it because, I mean, it did get deeply frustrating last season where he would go through 90 minutes and touch the ball 3 times and contribute nothing. And it's just like, what is going on here? Gavin makes this point, Joseph needs a goal this Saturday. Yeah, I'd love to see Joseph get going with the goals. I really would. I do.
Been think saying that every week.
I know. I mean, what has he done? 1, isn't it, so far? And he's so he needs to get going. He is young. It's his first proper run in the team, but he's obviously under a lot of pressure because we've got to be. We can't afford to have strikers missing chances like he has done. Unfortunately, as harsh as that is, there isn't really a kind of bedding in time. We need to hit the ground running. So it's going to be an interesting one to see what happens there. Sorry, Jess, go on.
I was just going to say, because Gavin's just popped a really interesting comment, and it brings another topic of conversation altogether. But you have to give Farke credit where it's due, okay? Because we're quick to give him a bashing when it doesn't work. The facts are, he came on in the 85th minute and he scored in the 87th. If he'd have come on in the 60th, now pretend the penalty didn't happen because he'd have probably taken the penalty, but he might not have ended up scoring that goal. Yeah, you can't just pick and choose when you're going to be critical and when you're going to give praise. The facts are, his sub instantly made a difference. So I just think you have to give him the praise for that on that particular occasion. Personally,
I mean, is this an actual kind of really kind of tactic that actually it's not too bad actually bringing Joel Piroe off who seals games up for you? I mean, even if it just works like that, I mean, is that all bad?
No, it's not.
I mean, I'd like to do it if we're 1-0 down and he gets a goal or something. That's the only thing I'd say with Piroe. He doesn't seem to get that many really crucial goals, I guess. But
I know what you're saying.
Game state, isn't it? Game state has a lot to do with it. There were some big plans announced this week as well. Jason, it'd be interesting to get your take on this as well. The potential expansion of Ellen Road going up to 53,000. Obviously, stadium development has been a long-term kind of issue around Leeds, previous owners and everything. It's always kind of been mooted that this would happen, but we seem to be getting closer now to things coming to fruition. They're going to be obviously staying at Ellen Road. They're going to be kind of doing the Anfield thing of kind of building whilst people can still attend. For me, it's another sign of the commitment from the 49ers in terms of, I mean, I said this on the Monday night show, but the official Leeds tweet that came out, and like the first comment I saw was like a negative comment saying, "Oh, we won't fill it anyway." And the thing, we're in a bizarre time with Leeds at the minute, because if we'd have had owners 10 years ago doing 25% of what the 49ers have done, we'd have been jumping for joy. I mean, the fact is they're the first ownership group that have actually got the ground. I know Radrazani said it was with Lee. It wasn't. It was another company and all that kind of thing. They're the first kind of ownership group that have actually secured Ellen Road. It's the clubs again. And now they're looking to invest in the club, and a club that's not even in the Premier League and might not even get up to the Premier League. There's no guarantee. So, I mean, for me, it's all positive. Obviously, there's huge demand, 26,000 waiting list for season tickets. So the demand is there. And, this is what we have to do to elevate the club, don't we? This is how we're going to try and compete. It's a different era of football now. You have to modernise. You have to move forward. And I'm just glad we've got owners that can actually do that for us. I mean, for years we had owners that were just penny pinchers and, Cellino turning off the swimming baths. And, it's just, we've been really through it. And now we've actually got owners who are kind of moving things forward. It feels to me there's still like this suspicion element there. And, look, people have got a right to kind of, you've got to be wary with owners. They are only the custodians of the club, But from what I've seen and these plans announced this week, that's a good step forward, surely.
It feels to me like some section of the fan base just they've deleted the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's like they've gone from Champions League semi-finals to this and forgotten all of that bit in between. And I don't get it. Like, I feel like I had some fantastic times following Leeds in League One, went to a lot of the away grounds, and don't get me wrong, I got to experience some amazing things as a consequence of the terrible times that we had.
Yeah.
Like, I don't look on them in a bad way, if you know what I mean.
No.
I am so appreciative of what we've kind of now managed to build this club to be back into. I don't take it for granted in the slightest. And I'm super appreciative of Radrazani, first off, even though he had a lot of bad points. And then being in the custodians, if you like, custodianship, is that a word? I think that's right.
Yes.
Of a big organisation like the 49ers, because I recognise the fact, along even with sponsorships like Red Bull, that it's the only way that my club's going to be as successful as it possibly can be. And that includes, building on things like this in terms of increasing the capacity of the ground. And, if the attitude is that we're not going to fill it, well, we're not going to fill it with you. Yeah, but we definitely will, because we've got 20,000 waiting on season tickets. Yeah. And I think sometimes you have to, even as a more positive fan, which I would consider myself to be, you have to kind of try and drown out the loud minority, because I do think ultimately it must be the minority that speaks the loudest. I think the majority is actually mainly like us. Are fairly realistic and positive about what's going on. So I just can't see any of it in anything other than a positive light, to be honest.
Absolutely. Welcome Richo as well. Evening, guys, and chat, a resident Everton fan. Good news of Everton takeover, Richo. You must be delighted with that. Hopefully, the tide is. Can we add a 25% fee on that, please? That'd be nice. But Everton kind of getting out of the mud, and I don't know how they've stayed in the Premier League all these years when they've been an absolute car crash. But fair play to them, they just know how to survive. And if they get through this season and stay up. New stadium next year in the Premier League, new owners. It could be a new era for them. So we'll wait and see. Just wild.
Just on Gavin's comment there, just before we maybe talk about Everton, that is what we had to deal with, and that isn't that long ago. In the grand scheme of things, I was there for the first game of the season, minus 15 point season. Trezor Campbell scored 2-1. We beat Tranmere at their place after Matt Heath scored. We were signing players like the morning of the game to play in the game that day. Dennis Wise and Gus Poyet. It was an absolute mess. We went to Oldham away and had Wayne Andrews and Mark De Vries up front. Just think about where we're at. We're selling Jorginho Rutter for 40 million and getting to experience players like even last season, the Chris Somervilles and Archie Grays again, and a couple of seasons. But you see Rafinha. Just gonna say, you see Rafinha picking up Player of the Month and wearing the captain's armband for Barcelona. We are so far away from that. Hartlepool away and Stevenage away, and this is what we had to contend with. So yeah, I just don't think you can look upon what's going on at the moment and be anything other than positive. I seen a content creator say this the other day, we are, really a championship club that has had 3 seasons in the Premier League. Yeah. That's the reality. We're not that Champions League semi-finalist that we saw. No. I've just seen a clip pop up here 24 years ago today since we beat Besiktas 6-0. That's not the club that we are nowadays. No. And we want to get back there, and we've got the capabilities to get back there, get that. And we should have probably got there. Well, maybe not got there earlier, but we should have been. I think, and I know you think, we should have been building on the back of 2 years in the Premier League in year 3 and year 4, where we'd have started to establish ourselves. And unfortunately, because of terrible management, we ended up getting relegated again. That I can totally get on board with being angry about, but that's not this ownership. This ownership are trying now to rebuild it back up and give us that, and I believe that they would. I really do.
Yeah, and this is it. It's fascinating because I've been thinking about this a lot and kind of trying to kind of understand my own kind of outlook on the season and the negativity and all that kind of stuff. And the first season I supported Leeds, we were the champions of England. We played in the European Cup, losing to Rangers. It was like, that was my introduction. We were top dogs, and for the 90s, we were a top 5 team. Top 5 team, and then obviously turn of millennium, Europe, Champions League. So I'm kind of lodged. I'm stuck in that kind of. For me, Leeds is that club, that size of club. That's where we need to be, and anything below that is a bit like that, a bit dispiriting.
We're like the fallen giant, aren't we? We are the fallen giant of English football. Us and Forest, I would argue, are probably a similar kind of ilk when it comes to that. I think of clubs abroad, like a Parma, who have got massive success in top division of Serie A. There's others as well. We could go on and on about that. But you're right. You're right.
There's tons of it in there. So 53,000 stadium. Let's just keep club building, and hopefully we can. I mean, we need the Premier League, don't we, Jason? I mean, there's no way around it. Is that it's got to be the Premier League, because we're going to move on to our Coventry preview. And I make a tenuous link there because I was watching some Coventry fan TV stuff today, and I didn't actually realise kind of the mess they're in. Actually,
more bad starts to the season, isn't it?
Really bad starts to the season, and a lot of issues kind of off the pitch and stuff kind of bubbling away. And I mean, they're 19th in the table, have only won 1 league game. And there's lots of things happening. I mean, the video I was watching, the guys were talking about they've added a lot of coaching staff. They lost a really important figure in the club. What's his name? Adi Vidic. And they've got a load of staff in. Obviously, the signings been up to it this summer? I know they've got like Jack Rodoni from Huddersfield, for example, but is that Callum O'Hare level? This kind of thing. So they seem to be really kind of spiraling. And for me, it's almost like they got to a playoff final and didn't make it. And is it a little bit of like, is this ghost of the future? If we don't get promotion, it's so easy to kind of trend downwards and backwards because you just haven't got that income coming in, have you? Once the parachute payments go, are we going to be Coventry in 3 years if we don't go up?
I think it's actually really funny because I've seen a lot of Coventry fans, slandering Robbins and
a lot of that as well. Yeah,
it just shows you. It shows you how quickly things can change, and it also shows you it's not just Leeds fans that are just moronically like all over the place, because this is a manager that's taken them up from League Two, I think it was. He definitely brought them up from League One and built them and built them and built them. Playoffs, playoff final. I mean, they really should have gone up that year. They dropped the ball losing to Luton in that final. They had they had Hamer, Gyökeres. They could have made a real fist of the Premier League with a couple of players like that. So anyway, they still were. They were overachieving at the time. Coventry and Luton both were overachieving. So, they're maybe just finding finding themselves back in the pecking order where the squad should be. And if they stick by Robins, they'll keep them up. They'll finish mid-table more than likely. And I just think they're very quickly forgetting where they've come from and what he's done for them. Very similar to what we were just saying, isn't it? So, and from the outside, we're like, well, Robins is a good manager. Some people will tell you Robins is the best manager in the division, or one of the best.
That's what I was. That's what I was kind of shocked by. Is kind of the kind of some of them were like the anti. I'm watching comments filtering all the videos like get Robins out and all this. You think, God, you're in a semi-final FA Cup a few months ago.
I've seen a lot of Leeds fans say in the summer we should get rid of Farke and bring Robins in. You know what I mean? So it just shows you, doesn't it? I've seen a lot of people, and I bet if you asked a lot of the Farke outwards, they'd say, yeah, do that. Yeah, Coventry fans want to sack him. You know what I mean? So that's just football, isn't it?
It's crazy. Isn't
but
it?
Coventry are a funny one. Like, I think people at times there's a lot of weird stuff to people's memory. Coventry away last season, I would say, was probably one of the not worst performances this season, but we certainly deserved to lose that game.
That horrible 2-0 game or something.
Yeah, they scored. 1-0. Did we lose 1-0 or 2-0?
It might have been 1. Oh, it was awful.
But it was poor.
Yeah,
it was a really poor day at the office.
Yeah.
But at home, people are talking about as if Mark Robins and Coventry came and did a job on us. It was a bit similar to the Burnley game the other day in that we were 1-0 up. We were totally coasting. They scored the one opportunity that they got. One of them ones that we always see where, Melier just needs to make one save in 90 minutes and he didn't. They ended up scoring. It was not fluky, but it were against the run of play. We totally dominated the game. We needed a second goal to kill it off, and we ended up drawing 1-1. Like if we can dominate the game as much as that again on Saturday, we'll win the game. We'll win the game comfortably, because results like that don't happen all the time. Yeah, Nigel's right. We're 2-1. I think they went 2-0 up, and then we scored late on. I think it was consolation.
Like that, wasn't it?
Yeah. The away game was poor, but the home game was absolutely fine. I'm not particularly worried about the weekend. I think it's probably a good time to face them. They got a lot of pressure on them. They're probably going to have to come out a little bit and try and win the game. They need to pick up the points, or Robins is going to feel like they need to pick up the points. They don't have the danger men that they had previously, as in Hamer, Gyökeres. I know they still have Hadji Wright and Ellis Sims, but they're not as strong. You're talking about the lad that went to Sheffield United. Then, his name's escaping me now for some reason.
Hamer.
No, the attacking midfielder.
Oh, Callum O'Hare.
Callum O'Hare, that's it. Yeah. They don't have O'Hare, So, I think we just have to go in it with confidence, mate. Like, there's no reason not to.
No. It was interesting hearing the expectation their fans as well, and they were kind of wanted to know why they haven't competed in the transfer market to be a top 6 team. That's where their heads were at with it. It's like, why are we, we haven't signed any defenders. Why are we signing players from Peterborough? Why are we doing this? They were wanting to know why are they not kind of in the upper echelons of the league, really. That's kind of where their expectation. And it's funny, isn't it? Because, Coventry, I remember them in the 90s. They had Gordon Strachan managing them for a while. They had Gary McAllister, Darren Huckabee.
Mustafa Hadji,
So they had a little run, didn't they? So that there's probably a lot of their fans like me who are looking back, going, "Well, hang on, we were there one time. Like, let's do it again." But if you look where Robins has kind of taken them from, it takes time to build up, doesn't it? So, it's. Look, we just need to go on a bit of a run, don't we, really, Jason? We just need to kind of let's stock up a few wins. Let's get a run going. Let's slowly climb the league. It's still only 5 points to West Brom, and it's so early, and it's just there's no marker at the moment, is there really?
The overreaction is just wild, because not only are we in this position, and people, you'd think sometimes, speaking of people that were in like the bottom 3 or something, or like even the bottom half. We've not even come out of second gear.
No.
Like, this is Daniel Farke's best ever start to a championship season, ever. And he's finished top twice.
Is that right?
Is
this his best start ever?
This is Daniel Farke's best ever start to a championship season. And he's finished as winners of the league twice with over 90 points and 90 points last season. So, where could we be? Like, he usually always does much better after Christmas. His teams usually go on a run at the beginning of the year, and when they're fully in the momentum and whatnot. Like, I can't understand. I just don't get it. I don't get it because I'm very kind of realistic to where the whole picture is, but I also quite like a lot of what I see in the performances. I think fans just want to see crash bang wallop football all the time, and that's just not the style. And we had that under Marsh, a different variation of crash bang wallop. We had it obviously beautifully under Bielsa for some years, but as I said at the beginning of the show, that's just not what you're going to see all the time. And the amount of control that we have, some fans say it's boring. I like seeing us with the football.
Yeah, same. But I mean, this is the thing as well. I mean, last year, there were plenty of games where we were so comfortable last year, and it was like, we'd come on a match review and go, job done. Should we wrap it up? Because it was just easy, and it was like, the frustrating thing was, it was like, we need to get to the Premier League to actually have some kind of testing games, because it's it's such an easy walkthrough. I think, us not getting promoted this way, this suspicion about Farke and his style, this is where it's kind of come from, and everybody's worried that it's kind of history's going to repeat itself. We're going to fall short again. Are you worried about the quick turnaround to Norwich then? I mean, that's quite a tough one away, Norwich Tuesday night. I think it's going to start ramping up, isn't it, now with the midweek games, and then I think we're back on Friday. Aren't we, against Sunderland? Jesus.
This week's going to be tough, mate. Isn't it? Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. Like, I would really like to see us cruise to a win on Saturday, because I think it'd be good to be able to play at our pace, control the game, have a bit of a training session in that second half with 2 or 3 goals, kind of comfortable buffer, make some substitutions, see out the game, and then move on to Tuesday. Is it possible that we lose one of them 3 games? I think so. Norwich away and Sunderland away are going to be no easy. But we shouldn't be like completely losing his heads if we do, because both are good sides, and both are going to be in the upper echelons of the league, and we're not going to win or not lose every game. But if we could come out of that with 7 points, I'd be absolutely buzzing. I'd snap your hands off with it right now.
Well, I was going to say, what would you be happy with, and conversely, what would you be kind of going, oh dear, that is a bit worrying.
I think context matters, because it depends on how the games go and whatnot.
I don't think we can lose 2. I think if we lose 2 games, that would
be I'd say that was fair. I'd say anything less than 5 points is going to be seen as a big disappointment, but I'd say anything from 6 upwards, I don't think you can be that unhappy about really. If I could say take 2 wins and a loss now, I'd probably take it. Yeah. Because I think 6 points out of them 9 is not bad. Again, we want to win every game, guys, but we're just not going to do that. And you're not going to go to every single away game and win every single game, or even draw, half of it. You're just not. But saying that, we're undefeated away from home. We've not conceded a goal away from home. So maybe I'm doing us a disservice and say, well, yeah, we should take a minimum of 7 points. I don't know. Like, would you take 5? A win and 2 draws? I don't know.
I think that this season, it doesn't feel like there's a Leicester and Ipswich. I know West Brom had a great start and that, but it doesn't feel like there's that amazing Premier League squad that's just going to run away with it, and some daft Ipswich situation. It feels 5 points is not the end of the world. I think the issue is that what we require as Leeds fans, our standards are through the roof.
Just to win every week.
Performances will matter as well. I mean, I remember Sunderland away last season was horrible, wasn't it? They outfought us, didn't they, all game, and we just didn't seem to be able to get up for the physical battle, did we? So we definitely want to see that.
I just think Nigel's comment there is just so harsh. The one above. Minimum 7 points from 3. I think that's so harsh. Like, minimum. the minimum that Daniel Farke can get to say that it's acceptable. I'm not talking about what we want or what's good. The minimum is that he's got to beat Coventry on Saturday and then beat one of Norwich or Sunderland and then draw the other one. I think that's so harsh over the whole extent of the season. Like, you're just not gonna take them kind of levels of points all the time. You get what I mean? Am I being
no, I get
too
it.
fair there? Like, yeah, I just don't say. And like, I know Gavin's saying can't afford a bigger gap to West Brom, but again, the context of the games matters because we're playing two of the better sides in the league away from home. So I'm not making excuses for him either. Like, I want to see us win games, and we are very capable of going to both of them teams and winning both games. But Stadium of Light's a tough place to go. Really tough place to go, especially at this, because it matters when you face these teams sometimes. Because Burnley, in 2 months' time, I don't know when they play Sunderland, but they might go to the Stadium of Light when Sunderland have lost 3 in a row and then win the game. Yeah. And you're saying, well, Burnley can beat them, but Leeds can't beat them. And because that matters too, doesn't it? So, yeah, I think anything over 6 is really good. Really good out of them 3 games.
Yeah, playing devil's advocate, if it was, let's say, 2 defeats and a draw or something really kind of appalling like that, I mean,
it's a pylon, imagine.
Oh, it's going to be. I mean, just please don't happen, because I mean the noise would be so loud at that point. Wouldn't it? And this is the pressure he's under, because you're absolutely right in the context of those games. That is hard. That is a hard week where it's kind of foreseeable, especially with 2 away games midweek and one on the Friday night. I mean, I could see a situation where we do lose, but I don't think we will. I just don't think we will. And I dread to think what will happen if we do.
And I hate to feel like I'm just picking on Gavin, right? But Gavin's just put West Brom of 6 winnable games ahead. I mean, what a weird thing to say, like 6 winnable games in a row. And I've just quickly brought up the fixtures. After Sheffield Wednesday at the weekend, they play Middlesbrough. Like, so you're classing Middlesbrough as one of these winnable games. And then they've got Blackburn away, who have also been one of the form teams at the start of the season. So, like, if Leeds were playing them games, you'd be saying, oh, Farke, he's got to win all these games. Like, they're the tough games, Blackburn away. Like, it's just the perspective on it based on whether it's Leeds or whether it's West Brom in this kind of... West Brom won't win all 6 of them. They'll almost certainly lose 1 or 2 of them. I made the point to you the other day, didn't I, Brownie, that the only difference between West Brom and Leeds is Josh Maja. Josh Maja scored 6 in 6 after scoring 5 in his previous 42 championship games, I think it was. He scored more in the first 6 than he has done in his previous 42. That's not sustainable. That's not going to carry on. No. Yeah, no. And the way that they play, like people say, oh, Corberan's a genius and, and all this kind of stuff. Well, the style of football is actually more boring and worse than ours, but he's just got a striker that's putting the ball in the back of the net with the chances that he gets. That's going to stop. So, yeah, I don't get this kind of mindset. You have to apply the same logic to everything that you're looking at.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I am looking forward to. I'm looking forward to actually a rush of games. I know they're difficult games, but
me too.
I'm excited for it. Like let's get some games wrapped up and let's see what we're about. Let's see what the squad's about. Let's see if Farke's learned from last season. Let's see how he uses that squad, because there were probably times last year where he could have maybe brought other players in and that kind of thing. So let's do it. Let's see how we get on.
I think you're spot on with that. He mentioned in the press conference, I think, a comment around using the squad and 3 games in 6 days and all this kind of stuff. And last season, we had situations like that where he didn't use the squad and he churned out the same 11, regardless of the opposition. There'll be games where it would make more sense to drop Mateo Joseph and bring in Joel Piroe. There'll be games where it will make more sense to drop Gruev and bring in Tanaka or bring in Rothwell or whoever. Yeah, that's on him to do. Whether if he then just wheels out the same 11, there'll be questions to be answered if we then don't get the results. Because I do think we have the squad to be able to change it up the game dependent. Yeah, we have to do that. We have to start doing that now. Yeah. Whether that, even if that includes, like some more negative ones. I'm not saying it should all be one way. Sam Byram for Jayden Bogle. Yeah. That'll make sense on occasions. Schmidt coming in. Whatever it takes. Like, I'm not the manager. I'm not paid to do that job. But he has got the squad at his disposal to find them answers now, and that's where he then will have questions to answer.
I think you bang on with that, because I think that's going to be really key this season, because if you just approach every game in that kind of right, we're just going to have slow build up and we're going to, take out, sometimes you've got to mix it up, aren't you? You've got to, I mean, look, we went to West Brom and dug out a 0-0 there. Sometimes you've got to mix it up, because, I mean, I remember, when we got spanked by QPR at the end of the last season, we were just like shell shocked, weren't we? We just kind of turned up and we didn't know what planet we were on, really. So let's see if he learns his lessons from that point. Definitely. Diggler here. I'm not even sure yet how good our team is this season. After 10 games, I'll have more of an idea. Well, that's it. We're still only 6 or 7 games in, so it'll be interesting. I mean, this time, what are we on Thursday? I mean, well, this time in a week and a few days, we'll have a clearer idea. I mean, next Saturday we'll know what we'll look back on these 3 games and think, right, how did we cope with that? And it'll be a good little indicator this week for what's going on and how good and durable this squad is.
As much as I'm defending Farke, I still think this squad's the best in the division.
Yeah.
So I am not giving him any kind of slack from, all I've seen from these 6 games is a crazy opening day of the season, has dominated pretty much every minute of every league game going forward after that, including Burnley, which we lost. We were a Mano Solomon slip away from at least not losing that game. I think we go on and win that game if we don't end up conceding. We should have been in front in the first place. Them games are decided on moments like that. So for me, he gets a bit more grace because the performances have been absolutely fine. If you find it boring or not, that's your interpretation of the performance. But when you go in and go into these teams and cruising through, no problem for me, no problem. No. I think you're right. I think this week is going to be an acid test, and unfortunately, managing Leeds United comes with the territory and responsibility that if you lose a couple of games in the Championship in a row, especially after Bielsa, you're going to be in for a lot of pressure. Before Bielsa, probably not, but certainly after Bielsa, you can't do that. You can't. It's a bit. To be fair, it's a bit like managing Manchester United in the Premier League. You lose 2 or 3 games in a row, there's problems. You're thinking about potentially getting sacked, and Leeds is very similar to that right now in the Championship because of the demand and the desire and the worry and the stresses and the fears, and the fan base is volatile at the best of times. It can be the best and it can be the worst.
Well, the thing is as well, you don't want to get into that kind of managerial merry-go-round. I mean, it was funny because a couple of clips came up from when we got relegated from the Premier League and we went from manager to manager. I mean, it's a horrible place to be where you try to implement several different styles in a couple of months. It just, it's, I don't want to go back.
Be careful what you wish for, mate. Be careful what you wish for, because I'm telling you, let's just say we lose this next 3, right? And then the 49ers make because there is some fans that kind of I just want us to lose them and get him out, and then we could make a change in international break. Moronic. It's so stupid. So stupid is that mindset. You always want your team to win the games, regardless of who's the manager. In hindsight, you can say, I wish we'd have lost to Liverpool, so Jesse Marsh should have been sacked. That's different. But in the moment, you should never want your team to lose regardless. If that did happen and we were to go and try and find another manager in this international break, you are not getting a better manager that's better equipped, that knows the players and all the rest of it put together, that's better than Daniel Farke in the Championship. You're not.
Exactly. Right. Okay. Well, we'll wrap it up there. I want to thank everybody who's watched along. Oh, yes, go on.
What's your prediction for Saturday?
I think it's going to be I'm going to say 2-0. 2-0.
We like a 2-0, don't we?
Yeah.
3-0. I'm gonna say we're gonna score an extra one this week. We're gonna put them to the sword. Previously, it seems the teams at the bottom have not been a problem for us so far, whereas last season they were. We're beating Cardiff, we're at Portsmouth maybe with an exceptional opening day, but we're beating Sheffield Wednesday. We've got Coventry. I'm feeling fairly confident and comfortable. I think we get an early goal. I think somebody put about scoring an early goal earlier. It'll make a massive difference to the way that the game plays out. But that's not on Daniel Farke. That's on Joseph, Nonto, whoever the chance falls to put the ball in the back of the net. And I fully believe that we'll be comfortable at the back. They have got a couple of danger men though. Haji Wright, Ellison. Yeah. You're not going to come across many more potent strikers in the division than them two all season. Not that play for the same team. So there is a bit of a risk attached to that. Maybe 3-1, but I'm going to stick with 3-0. 3-0.
That's it. Early goal. We don't want anything getting into second halves where it's 0-0 or anything like that. No, we're not having any of that. Good stuff. Well, thank you everybody who's got involved with tonight's show, commenting. Make sure you've liked the video. If you're on YouTube, please do subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching along on X, please do follow the West Yorkshire Football Show page as well. Myself and Jason, I think we'll be back for a match review, mate. Are you around for a postie on Saturday?
Yeah. We'll be.
We'll be back then, so please do catch mine and Jason's thoughts on Saturday straight after the game. Hopefully, it'll be a very comfortable. We're saying 2 or 3-0, so we'll see what happens. But thank you very much for thank you very much for watching. I've been Stephen Brown. Alongside me has been Jason Bucket, and we'll see you again on Saturday. Thank you.